Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Hello, dear students. Welcome to another lecture. In this class, we are going to begin with Chapter 7 of Class 11th Education, which is Indigenous System of Education in Nagaland. Now, this chapter, dear students, is about Nagaland. This chapter is going to introduce to us to the soul of Nagaland. We are going to learn about the native culture. Indigenous means something that belongs to something, some place originally, or the native, of something. So, the culture, the originality, the soul, the essence of Nagaland is what we shall discuss about in this chapter. So, as I said, we are going to talk about how the system of education originated in Nagaland. We all know what is education. We all understand how important it is for one to get educated. But how did this system of education originate in Nagaland is what we shall be learning about in this chapter. So, we all know, we have read about it, that the first school that a child goes to learn something in life is the family. When we are born, before we enter into a formal schooling, we get the best lessons in life from our family, right? So, family is an institution which is responsible for giving you, for imbibing in you the best lessons of life. In Nagaland, Morung, this was a system wherein only the boys were educated in Nagaland. So, this system existed. Now, since we are talking about the origin, when things originated, we all know that there was a time when female education was not given that much relevance. Now, obviously, things have changed altogether and the girls are exactly at par with the boys. But since we are talking about the system which existed in the past, we are talking about history, how the things originated. So, Morung was a system under which only the boys of Nagaland were given the education. Festivals that were celebrated. Now, festival, the moment we speak of the word festival, what comes to our mind? Colors, fun, frolic, culture, because every festival has got some or the connection with the culture. So festivals were considered to be the tools with the help of which one could learn, one could connect to their culture, and what one could also convey what was important and why was it important to learn the culture to the next generation, right? Somebody who's born, for example, does not know the reason why some festival is celebrated. You have to tell that child, you have to inform and educate that child, and this ways you transfer the culture from one generation to the other generation. And Nagaland at that time was a land with multiple tribes. So every tribe had their own festival, and with the help of their festivals, they used to augment their culture and transfer it forward. Then the traditional dresses that they wore, the folk songs, the dances, the feast, the lavish dinner, the games, everything was connected with a festival. Alright? So the family, the Morung, that is the education of the boys, and the festivals of Nagaland is what we shall discuss about in detail in this chapter. Fine? So the Nagas, the people of Nagaland, they are very popular for having developed a system of education that originally or that originated there. It was not inculcated, it was not derived out of any other place. Rather, it originated from Nagaland. It belonged to Nagaland. Its native place was Nagaland. So, Nagas are very famous for that. Now, this is the map of India in which we can see that Nagaland, the position of Nagaland can be seen by us, right? So, it is situated on the right hand side of the Indian map. This is the zoom version of Nagaland with all the different areas, the different parts of Nagaland. So this is what is Nagaland. This is the map of Nagaland, and as I told you that Nagaland is very famous for having given to us its original system of education, for having given to us the number of festivals that we are going to learn about, and also having begun with Morung, which was a way in which the boys were educated. Okay? So let us read about each one of them. So the education that was given to the Nagas was based on three things: family, Morung, and festivals. What does it mean? It means that whatever education existed in Nagaland in the initial times, it could be got, from the family. One could get that education on being a part of the Moro, that is, the educational group that was meant for the boys, and also from the festivals that were celebrated with the sole intention of transferring the culture to the next generation. So these were basically the three sources of education among the Nagas in the previous time. Now, Nagaland is known as a land of festival. Why? Because as I told you, there were multiple tribes that existed in Nagaland, and every tribe had their own festival to celebrate. So the entire year, there was one or the other festival that was celebrated, bringing about a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, a lot of cheerfulness among the people. Now, this place, that is Nagaland, according to the census of 2011, census, we all know, is that system under which the population of the country is calculated. So, according to the census of 2011, the population of Nagaland was 19.78 lakh. Okay? So, this place, Nagaland, comprised of many tribes, and the tribes had 19.78 lakh people. Every tribe had their festival. So that means across the year, some or the other festival was always celebrated. As we have seen in the map of Nagaland, I'll take you back to the map. So when we see the map of Nagaland, it is bound by Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Myanmar, and Manipur. So these are the different places that surround Nagaland, that are there around the land of Nagaland. So from the eastern side, Nagaland is surrounded by Myanmar and Arunachal Pradesh, and from the west and the north side, it is surrounded by Assam and Manipur, respectively. The geographical area of Nagaland is 16,579 square kilometer, and this area also has a lot of topographical variations. What does it mean? That the entire area of 16,579 square kilometer is not plain, is not mountainous, is not full of terrains. Rather, it has a lot of variations. You can find different types of lands in different areas. You'll see forests also, you'll see beautiful rivers also, you are going to see plain, you're going to see terrains, you're going to see mountains and hills. So the entire area of Myanmar is proud to own various, types of topography. Now, let us talk about the land as well as the people of Myanmar. Now, Myanmar is inhabited by 16 major tribes. Inhabited means in Myanmar there are 16 tribes, and those 16 tribes are further subdivided into many sub-tribes. These are the names of the tribes on your screen. We have Ao tribe, the Angami, Chang, Hoyak, Lotha, Sumi, Shak Sezang. I am really sorry. I apologize if there is some pronunciation error that you come across from my end. Khiamniongam, then Kachari, Phom, Rengma, Sangtam, Shimzungkru, Kuki, Sheliang, Pochuri. These are the major tribes, 16 major tribes that existed in Nagaland. And these 16 major tribes were further subdivided into the small tribes. Every tribe had their own, language. They had their own culture. They had their own custom. The clothes that they wore were different. The festivals that they celebrated were different. And all these tribal people could always be seen wearing beautiful costumes, beautiful jewelry, ornaments, and that is how they were distinguished from one tribe to the other. Okay? They were recognized, they were identified on the basis of their costumes and on the basis of their jewelry that they wore. Now, the way these people of Nagaland lived, their entire life revolved around their land, which they owned, their family, their clan, that is the group of people that belonged to their tribe, their khel, that is again, the entire group of their clans, as well as the village that they had. Villages of these tribes, they were always located on the top of the hills. Why? Because they would construct the villages on the top of the hill so that from that top they could keep an eye on their surroundings and could protect themselves and their families and their clans. Okay, from the height, you are always in a position to look at the things taking place around you. So for safety, for defense purposes, these villages were constructed on the top. These Naga people, they constructed their huts using wood, bamboo, as well as straw. Straw is the dry grass. So that is how their villages were constructed. And every tribe had their own design also. You see how distinct their fashion, how distinct their originality was. Not only did they differ in the kind of clothes that they wore, the costume, the culture, the traditions that they followed, but also the way that they designed the things. And one thing that was common among all the tribes was that the entrance of their huts were also decorated. They were always decorated with the skulls of the animals. The skull, okay? So they were always decorated with the skulls of the animals. Now, Naga people are considered to be very good with the work related to iron. Okay, they can make things. They are wonderful with iron works. They are also very good at making baskets and the other things that use bamboo. They can also make good pots, pottery, the clay pottery. They are good at making pots also, and that too without using the potter's wheel. So they don't even use the potter's wheel. They are still very good at making the pots. Other than that, they are excellent carpenters, and they are wonderful at stonework. So this paragraph basically talks about the different skills and the occupation that the Naga people were endowed with. Ironwork, baskets made from bamboo, pottery without the potter's wheel, carpentry, and the other work related to stone. They were experts in that. We also know that the clothes, the material, the textile, the raw cloth that was brought by them out of the textiles, or that was made by them, everything has a different pattern. The kind of the clothes that these tribal people wore, they were also not same. Every tribe had a different pattern on their clothes, and their pattern had something to depict about their customs, something to depict about the meaning that existed between their tribe. The belief of their tribe was exhibited through the clothes and the pattern on their clothes. Women would wear simple loin looms. This is a kind of cloth. So they would wear clothes made of loin, but the designs that could be seen on their clothes were very intricate. They were very minutely made, and they were beautiful in art. The weapons that they used were made of daws and spears. So these were the two weapons that they would use at that time, daws and the spears. Okay. Other than that, the women in the initial time kept themselves busy by being, good at weaving. Weaving, when you weave clothes, okay, the material that is woven. So the women would employ themselves in weaving, and in that time, being aware of the art of weaving was considered to be the highest known skill that you could actually be proud of. So that was considered very respectable, it was considered very efficient and very skillful. The shawls and the mekhala. Mekhala again is a kind of a traditional wraparound which is worn by the Naga people. Wraparound which is worn like a skirt. So the shawls and the wraparounds that were worn by both the men and the women, their designs, their colors, everything talked about the person and the status of the person. So you see, they just did not wear anything and everything. Whatever they wore had something to do with their personality, had something to do with their beliefs, and had something to depict about what they believed in and what they, respected. Apart from the status symbol that these clothes were a sign of, every tribe had a common shawl for the men and the women, for married and unmarried people. So the married people were differentiated from the unmarried people from the shawls that they wore. So the shawls worn by the married were different from the shawls that were worn by the unmarried. Ornaments that they wore, the jewelry that they wore, that was indispensable. They never dressed themselves up without their jewelry. For them, without jewelry, they were incomplete. The men also wore ornaments, and the ornaments worn by the men were made out of metals, bones, out of ivory, out of cowries, shells, cane, leather, orchids, wood. So ornament was such an important part of their overall attire that not only the women but also the men would always dress themselves up with ornaments. Now the ornaments were usually worn by them, in the neck, and the neck ornaments that they wore were made out of beads, the big beads, the shells, the stones, the horns. This is how they would make ornaments for themselves. At that time, they even used a red stone which was opaque, which was, semi-transparent kind of a stone that they would wear as a necklace. So they would tie that stone with the help of a thread or with the help of a stone, with a string. And that stone was actually very expensive. It was very, very valuable and highly prized for them. There was also a conch shell. Conch shell is basically a shell which can be blown and some sound comes out of it. So small conch shell were also worn by the people at that time. There was a chain made up of the beads, and with that chain of bead they would make the conch shell as a locket. And that also signified their social status. Then at times they would wear a bracelet kind of a thing made of ivory, which was considered to be very valuable by them. Then the leggings that they wore beneath their wraparounds, they were either blue, red, yellow, or they were basically made up of cane rings. So how would they dye their leggings? With the cane rings. They would make or tie their leggings with the help of rings, and then they would dye that. Naga women also wore ornaments such as earrings, such as the wristbands, bracelets, which were made of brass, copper, lead, as well as silver. This is how the young couple of Nagaland looked. As you can see, this is how they looked. You can see their costumes and the ornaments that are worn by both the men as well as the women. Now, Nagaland, being an independent state, being a powerful state with a rich culture, never confirmed, it never believed in the kind of status that was given to women in the other places of India. Okay. Traditionally, in Nagaland also, the women were not permitted to take part in the functions or to be a part of the important decision making in the village or of that tribal clan. But then all the members of the community gradually started getting an equal status to each other. So, this gap that existed between the gender that started to get lesser and lesser, and there was a time when it just diminished altogether. The Naga women play a very important role, Each Naga women, so independently also and together as a whole, the Naga women played a very important role. Why? Because they were the ones because of whom the entire community, the entire tribe survived. They were the ones who were working in the, they were working and they were striving towards the development of the human beings. They were the ones who wanted to spread peace among the people, among the state. There was also an association, the Naga Mothers Association, which plays a crucial role because this association swore to fight against the gender injustice, discrimination between male and female. This association worked towards harmony, being together, being politically strong for women. It also worked towards generating peace and harmony in the different ways and means so that the women could get an equally respectable status in the society. Now, Nagaland is an agrarian state. So, agrarian means the primary activity of Nagaland is agriculture. Agriculture is how the people of Nagaland get their employment, get their resources, and their main food is rice. So, rice is the staple food of Nagaland. Now, rice is cultivated in Nagaland using two forms of cultivation: jhum cultivation and terrace rice cultivation. Terrace rice cultivation is also known as wet rice cultivation. Other than rice, the other crops which are grown in Nagaland are maize, pulses, oil seeds, sugar cane, potatoes, ginger, etc. So these are the other crops that are grown in Nagaland. Horticulture was another activity, that is, the fruits and the vegetables were also grown in Nagaland in abundance. Fruits and spices such as orange, vegetables such as the passion fruit, pineapple, banana, chili, cardamom, ginger, turmeric, black pepper, beetle vine, cashew nut, guava, plum, apple, flowers, etc. So, not only did the Naga cultivation only and only depend on growing rice and maize and the other crops, but also they were very good at horticulture. Agriculture, as I told you, was one of the primary occupations for them. And other than being a part of agriculture, so that means if a Naga was not a part of agriculture, they were certainly involved in forestry or logging, that is, cutting the woods, fishing, mining, or quarrying, finding out the metals from the land. Okay? Industrials did not develop at a very good pace in the Nagaland in that time. And the main factor why the industrialization was so slow in Nagaland was because the place was very remote. The place was a bit far away and was not very well connected with the other mainstream areas. There was no proper road connectivity. The infrastructure was not possible. And because of all these things, the state could not grow industrially. Because to have an industry, you need raw material, you need, some sort of a diesel also, and there are so many things that are needed which could not be made available because of its connectivity. Now, there were other land laws, there were special laws of land that were followed by the people, and according to these special land laws, the local people could not be transferred from their land. Okay, so this transferring of land was not allowed. There was an industrial growth center and a special economic zone which was set up in Dimapur in the earlier time. Then the handloom and the handicrafts of Nagaland. There was a Nagaland Handloom and Handicrafts Development Corporation Limited. This, industry basically made sure that whatever handloom, whatever handicrafts, whatever traditional, material was prepared by the Nagaland reached the people on a whole. It reached the masses. The main focus of this corporation was, as I told you, to make sure that the marketing of their products take place in large numbers. Now, this state has, in those times, had a lot of resources which were not utilized properly. They had abundance: limestone, marble, granite, petroleum, natural gas. So all these things were not utilized by them. This was not, used by them to the maximum. Coal, limestone, nickel, cobalt, chromium, magnetite, copper, zinc, platinum, petroleum, and natural gas. these minerals are available in Nagaland, but they could not be used by the people to the fullest. They did not know how to derive a benefit out of it. Coal is found in Nazira, Bojan, and the Teru Valley of Mon district. Limestone was found in Bazeho and Satuza in Peg district and at Nimi Belt in the Chuanzang district. Ores, which is a part of the nickel-ferrous chromite. Nickel, we all have heard, this is a kind of a stone only. So, ores, which is a part of the nickel-ferrous chromite magnetite, that also was found in the ultra-basic belt at Okpur in the Chuangzang district. Now, the soil that existed in the state in Nagaland was of two types: ferruginous red soil and laterites. We know there are different types of soils that can be found in different areas. So, Nagaland was rich in ferruginous soil and the laterites.